People often ask me, why do the beats drift apart on some CDJs even when the tracks have been previously beat matched perfectly? Now, I'll be honest, it does kind of suck, okay? Let's say you're mixing in, you've beat matched the song perfectly, and then you bring up the volume, and let's say you're drawing out your transition, probably like in techno and some of the more drawn out genres. Let's say the beats just are drifting apart just ever so slightly. And I'll be honest, like it might be slight at first, but the longer that transition is, the more that those beats drift. And I'll be honest, you want to be able to fix that up on the fly out loud. And in this video, okay, stick around. This is really this is beat matching advanced style. And the goal is that you can move the jog wheel out loud to an audience there and basically not only know which way to turn it, but also how much to turn it, and also that you can hop on here and let's say you do turn it the wrong way, but you're doing such small micro moves that hopefully you only really pick it up. You can hear the slightest difference and you can be able to fix it quickly on the fly. That is advanced beat matching, and we're gonna do that right now. But just before I jump in, a lot of people are like, well, why not just hit sync? And I'll be honest, yes, 100% use modern technology to solve our problems. You know, why not, right? Sync's there. And I'll be honest, I played last weekend at a festival, and there's a little bit of nerves too, and there's definitely some times that I just quickly hit sync because maybe I was running out of time. I just wanted to double make sure the transition was good. And sync's also really good when there's not a lot of beat. Let's say I'm mixing on a breakdown, there's not a lot going on, I want to bring in a beat under a vocal. 100% sync has got its time and place. But note though, sync is relying on the fact that the CDJs have a link cable connecting both players. And I've turned up to play in clubs, and sometimes the link cable gets a bit loose. For some reason, the thing at the back, it just kind of gets loose. And if that falls out or just comes out of connection, then all of a sudden you're not able to load the same track onto both decks with the USB, and all of a sudden it goes into emergency loop. And this kind of stuff can actually be really, really full on. So trust me, you want to know how to beat match, and not only know how to beat match, but be able to do micro connections, be able to use the CDJs how they were intended to, kind of like driving a manual car. And trust me, yes, 100%, like I might be into in the future being driven around automatically by do-it-yourself cars. But DJing, I think even though we can use the modern stuff, we need to know how to do it organically too. And it really feels good to be able to do that. Okay, so I'm gonna jump in now, but one thing quickly, okay, why? Why are they actually drifting out? And I think one reason would be is if you compare CDJs to a lot of controllers that operate off their computer software, if you look at the display screen for the BPM, on the CDJs, you've got the BPM and 1 decimal point, so 137.0 here, for instance. And then on a controller, you've got 2 decimal points, so it could be 137.00. Now, it's kind of difficult to match those 2 decimal points on controllers, as anyone knows, so a lot of people hit sync, but then again, hitting sync doesn't make you practice this micro beat matching, and that means if you turn up and situations aren't going the way you do and you've got no access to sync, things can quickly get undone. So anyway, long story short though, because it's only got 1 decimal point and the controllers have 2, there is a little bit of margin for error here. And I find sometimes if you're mixing tracks that the BPMs are further apart, then it's more likely that you've got them saying both 137.0, but those second decimal points that's not displayed could be further and further apart, and the beats can drift. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to learn to identify it. Okay, that's what we'll do right now. Then I'm actually going to show you how to fix it, kind of like on the fly. And then I'm going to give you some examples of ways that you can practice this so you can just take your beat matching game to the next level. Whether or not you use it, this is a really good skill to have. Okay, so first of all, okay, so I've got 2 songs here. I think the original speed on this one's roughly 135. The original speed on this one's probably like more 140. I've met them in the middle at 137. Let's just have a listen. I'd normally do it in my headphones, but I want you to be able to hear it. So let's take the volume up. And if it's sounding really muddy, sometimes you can turn up the high for the one that you're beat matching in. It kind of makes it a little bit crisper. Some beat match using the highs, it's pretty cool. Okay, let's get them in. Okay, that's in the pocket. Okay, let's see if they do drift, and let's find out which way they're drifting, and let's see how long it does take for them to drift. See, already that's drifted. But then again, if it was a quick transition over 1 or 2 phrases, I might be able to pull it off. But when you're doing these longer drawn out transitions, I have to fix that. So let's hop on and find out which way. Ah, that was it. See, it was just that little move. And that means it was just that way, and now I know that they're drifting. But now that I found out which way, all I have to do is these micro moves in the same way I just did it. See, it's drifting a little bit out. Do it again. There it is. Pretty cool. See, if I went the other way, listen. You know, but you don't really want to be doing that out loud. You want to find out. There it is, I've got it in. Cool. And this is probably where you come in, you're doing your transition. But now I know that if they start drifting, there you go. Little micro moves. So something to note here. If you are playing more drawn out genres, okay, where the beats can take longer to come in, or let's say you've mixed this one underneath and it's going for 30 seconds in your headphones before you bring up the volume, by the time you bring up the volume, the beats could already be out of sync. So my advice would be, let's say let's say you're playing like 5 minutes of this song. As soon as you got your new song loaded, maybe you could just hit play, beat match them, and just wait in your headphones and be like, okay, which way are they drifting? And then you could be like, in that case, I determined that it was this way. And then you know that if you bring it up, right, you get them in sync, but you know then that if they drift, it's good to know which way to turn it. So you find out in advance which way, and then when I bring it up, say they drift, then I'm like, okay, I just need to do little touches, and you kind of figure out how much it is. So it's like, okay, every 30 seconds, I just need to kind of move it like that. That's really, really helpful. Now, another method I really find to be effective, and something I do a lot, especially when playing more drawn out genres, where I might actually be playing a fair chunk of each song, just because each song might be progressive in its nature and kind of develops. And sometimes people, if you mix in too quickly, which is great, I love mixing quickly too, but it's finding that balance between how much of each song to play. But in some of the more drawn out techno stuff, sometimes I actually let the song breathe. So in those songs I'm letting breathe, what I might do is I could actually come in early with the volume down, set an incoming loop on the track, get it sounding good in my headphones, get the beat matching like figured out completely, know if they're drifting apart, which way they're drifting. So when I actually do get to my transition point, all I have to do is exit the loop so the phrasing lines up. And then also if the beats are drifting, well, I've already had a lot of the time, the song to be messing around. I know which way to actually turn it. Let me give you an example of this, but just think one thing quickly. If you're new to phrasing and looping the incoming song, I did a really popular video about this. I think it's called Pro Level Phrasing and Looping or something, right? So I'll link it in now, check that out. It's really cool, and it kind of goes hand in hand with this video. So let's imagine then, okay, I've mixed out of this song, I've mixed into this one, and as soon as that song's out completely and this one's in, maybe I get my new song ready, and at the first available opportunity, then I probably hit play, set an incoming loop, and then I've got, a long time to kind of like get ready. And it gives me something to do too while I'm waiting for that transition point further in the song. So let's say, this song's come on, and I'd be in my headphones, of course, but I'll show you out loud. So it just comes up to a phrase, I hit play. Okay, then in my headphones, I'll be mixing. Oh, actually, let's do the loop first. So you can loop 2, 4, or 8 bars. Let's loop 8 now for the sake of it. And it's about feeling that, right? 8, 2, 3, 4. I teach all that in my course, how to hear, know exactly where you are in the phrase at all time. But anyway, for now, yeah, that was 8 bars. But anyway, so now I've got that looping. It would be in my headphones, and I'd be beat matching that. But I'll show you the beat matching out that. Okay, see, I think I hit at the wrong point, because now it's moved on to that point and it's become in, but it wasn't in a second ago. That's what I mean about training your ears to hear these little differences. Like, you get really good at beat matching. So I had it off point, it's now moved on it, it's going to move over it. Just wait it. Yeah, it has moved over it. I'll make it a bit more obvious. Hang on. Yeah, see that? It's a little bit out, so I'll show you. See, there it is, just that little micro touch. But I know from the previous songs that it is that way. Okay, so let's pretend now I'm doing my mix. That's ready, So I'm like, cool. I might need to nudge it in again before I get to my transition point. My transition point's coming up, okay? Again, I talk all about transition points, marking and mapping your songs, EQ work, everything you need to bring it all together in a really cool and concise way in the Club Ready course. I'll put that in the description below. But anyway, and there's also a whole free mini course with about 20 videos. It really helps people to get started and build momentum. So anyway, this is having a lot of fun teaching this. Had a moment, thought I may as well share it. So this is coming out to a 1 here. It's coming out to a 1, the phrasing's good. In my headphones now, I'll check it and see it's drifted. So it'd be like, there it is, that sweet spot. See, it might drift again even, but I know now it's that way. So I know the cue's coming up in my headphones. I might just tweak it one more time. Okay, cool. Then that would be in my headphones. Now I might go from a transition. There's different EQ methods, but how about I come in right underneath for this one? Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, bang, the phrasings line up. I exit. Now I'm starting to come in from under. Oh, yeah. How about I do a move? I like that, chick. It's kind of a dominant way to play. But now this is a dominant track. I should really be hopping over to this one to do the beat matching. So that was drifting that way. So this would be the other way. Yeah, just a little bit, see? You want to be beat matching the less dominant song. And see, it's drifting. So like I said, that was speeding it up. So this one would be slowing down. It's getting used to that, feeling it. It's kind of fun, you know? Well, it's a lot of fun. Trust me, when I did this mix a few weeks ago, how I mix techno, right? I'll link it in now. But what happened was, that was actually not my first attempt at recording. I recorded the first one and I found the beat matching was just, I had them in sync, I was coming up, they were drifting, and it was just messy, and I was just so unhappy with it. So then what I did was I went and did it again, but because I was aware that the beat matching was coming out because of this problem, I kind of then was doing what I was doing now. I was looping in the beginning. Watch that video, you'll see it all the time. I'm looping it in, then I'm identifying which way to turn it for each transition. So that means then when I do bring it up, it might just be a little micro correction. And I'll be honest, when I listen back to that, I've got quite high standards with my set. I listen back to it, I'm like, wow, you know, just knowing which way to nudge it in made me feel so much better. So when you're playing, to figure out which way it's drifting in advance, and you've got that middle of the song section to figure that out, that actually really helps, because then I know which way to turn it, and that means I'm not going the wrong way and kind of potentially making it worse. Okay, so that's actually really cool. So anyway, yeah, you could loop in, figure out which way, then when you come to your transition point, release your loop, do your transition. If it falls out, at least you then know which way. Okay, now another way to practice this though might be, let's say you've got a controller at home. One way would be just don't even try and match that second decimal point. Just have them, you know, the first decimal point matched and give that a go. But you could even make it, let's say you're struggling to really hear the differences, we could throw them a little bit further out. Okay, so let's say for instance, this is 137 and 137. You could start by making just one BPM out. Let's make this 138. And you see they're coming out quite quicker. So, better. And it keeps coming out, because this one's obviously faster than that one. Just practicing. It's like getting it in, it's drifting out. As it drifts out, take it back in. Cool. Then, because it's 1 BPM different, it's coming apart. You're doing these corrections. There we go. Let it come out. Okay. That's a great exercise, that. Maybe then when you've done that, maybe we could make it, right now I've got 137 and 138. Maybe I could make it less, like 137.5, so 0.5 of the BPM out. You just get better and better, make it smaller and smaller, the increments, I'll show you. Okay. Cool. Okay, so you get them in sync first, then let them drift out. So they're drifting. See, if I go this way, it's not that way, right? There we go, in. But they're 0.5 different, so let it go. It's coming out. See, getting it in, hearing that sound, hearing them drift. getting it back in, hearing them drift. Cool. And then once you've done that, maybe make the increment even smaller. So I've got 137.0, maybe I can go 137.2, okay? Oop. Okay, so get them in sync first, then let them drift. Okay, so it's happening. It's little. And it's just getting you used to hearing those little bits and getting used to just correcting it. Perfect, right? It's just these little, you get used to how long to turn the wheel for too, how far, it's good. See, just these little touches. See, that 0.2 over time just gets further and further. So it's just like getting used to how the wheel works. This is a lot of fun. Cool, you see that? There you go again. Okay, you get used to how far to turn it, it's really good. Then once you've done that, take it to the same BPM. And I'll be honest, sometimes the same BPM will stay in, you know what I mean? But other times if it does drift, now, well, it's just gonna be these small little moves and it's just gonna, you know, up your beat matching game. Okay, they're in. Let's see. It'll probably take longer now. You see, it is coming. It's drifted. Oh, I've got a 136. Anyway, okay. Okay, it's in. Okay, and you're like, see, it's drifted. It's a little bit. There we go. It's just a little bit. Cool. It's micro, but still it brings the confidence. If you can hear the difference between a very small, like a drifting a little bit and getting it right in, man, you know, it brings the confidence. It means you know your decks, you know, it's good. There we go, it's just a small one. Cool. So that actually, I just made that up now. I'm kind of freestyling this video, if you can't tell. Anyway, but what I did there, okay, and I'll put these songs actually in the description below, along with that techno playlist, because if you did it for a whole playlist, it's really, really cool. And that playlist, I was experiencing these problems a lot. But here's the exercise, okay? You start up with one song, and maybe you make the BPMs 1 BPM difference. So in that case, I had that 137, 138, and I had a big intro and a big outro, so I've got plenty of times to work it. And then I'm just practicing, you know, just nudging them in, hearing them come out, nudging it back in, hearing them come out. Then once I felt good at that, I made the difference 0.5, okay? So it was 137, and I had this one at 137.5. They're taking longer to come in, but I'm still practicing that nudging, hearing them come out, taking them back in, hearing them come out, taking them back in. Then I took it to 137.2 or 137.1, like 0.1 decimal point or 0.2 out, and learning to hear that little drift, okay? And that means then when you get to the same BPM, if they're drifting, well, you've kind of built up your skills, and then you're doing that kind of on the fly. Now, ideally, like I say, I think you should practice as much as you can to do this in your headphones. You know, you don't want people really hearing it, but the beauty of having that going and looping in the beginning of the song and having that ready in the background is and if you have them the same BPM, but if they are drifting, you can identify which way to turn the jog wheel, and you can do all that without anyone hearing it. And that means when you do bring up the volume, you actually, you know which way to turn it. I know I kind of said that a few times, but I find as a teacher, you know, repetition really is the mother of all skills. So I just need to say it a few times to really get that through, and hopefully you find that helpful. Now, there really is no need to be scared about playing in clubs, okay? This video is more getting you prepared for worst case scenarios and to teach you how to do things the good old fashioned way, you know, to do things manually. But the chances are the sync button is going to be working, and let's say, you know, people are standing around and you don't want them to see that you're using sync. You can just hit sync carefully, you know, just quickly sync it to the master track, no problems whatsoever. And if you're down with sync, who cares, man? Just have sync on, like, you know, own it. You know, it's modern day technology and using it for your advantage. But the thing is, one day if things do backfire, especially if the CDJ link cable is missing or faulty, to be honest, you know, knowing how to do this method is really going to be game changing for you. Now, no doubt there is advantages and disadvantages of using sync, and there's a lot of confusion around that topic, and we need to personally find a middle ground between using tech to enhance our mixes, but also staying true to the organic art of DJing, which I love. So I love making content for you. Thanks for watching and being part of the Club Ready tribe. Man, you've got that, man. That looks like a fun exercise. You know, maybe I could have explained it better, but you get it, man. You know, I love making for you guys, and thank you for listening. Cheers.